Did I look like I was dying? I didn't look like it, but I was.
So to tell you what happened to Henry, you have to go back a little bit. Christmas 2023 was an ordinary Christmas. Our family had been passing around the Christmas/New Year's stomach bug. First my husband, then my youngest son, then me. And we told Henry, hey, why don't you just stay in your room for a little bit until Mom gets well enough to do all the cleaning that we needed to do. New Year's came, New Year's went. It was Henry's turn to get the stomach bug. And I have a rule that if you're not showing me any improvement in 48 hours, you get a trip to the pediatrician. Henry wasn't showing us any improvement. He wasn't eating, he wasn't leaving the couch. He just wasn't really improving the way the rest of us had. So I made an appointment for Thursday, January 4th with his pediatrician. Got out of the shower and put him in the car. And it was interesting because he didn't actually walk to the car. His father had to walk him to the car, almost carrying him. And his little dog Bella ran and out of the house, and she never runs out of the house. And she ran out of the house and put herself in between the tire of the car. I think she knew something was wrong. I took Henry to the pediatrician, 40 minutes away. Tried my best to sing happy songs, and then we get to the appointment and I have Henry put his hands on my shoulders and walked him into the building and into the room, and the medical assistant came in to take Henry's blood pressure and his pulse ox on his finger, and it wasn't recording anything. So she came back and she brought one of those kits to take the blood from his finger to see how his iron was, and she wasn't able to get any blood to come out of his fingers. And this is where the panic started to set in, because Henry started to turn more and more white and more yellow, and his fingers felt more and more plastic than ever before. And he looked up at his pediatrician, and he said to her, "Am I going to die?" And she said, "Not if I can help it." And I got very scared. And so I said, "Listen, we need to go. We just need to go to the hospital right now." She said, "Wait just a few more minutes, just a few more minutes." And unknowing to us, what she was doing was only to help Henry. I put Henry back in the car and drove. I needed to get my husband. I needed to get his father. I couldn't do this without him. I just needed to be there. And so I drove the 40 minutes back home, praying to God the entire trip there, talking to Henry, telling him, "Do not fall asleep." Picked up my husband, and my husband drove another 40 minutes to a hospital, but it's a children's, specifically for children with trauma. What Henry's pediatrician had done was contact the emergency room and gave them all the vitals that they needed, that when we walked into the emergency room, and when I say we walked, I should take that back and say we got a wheelchair, and Henry got in the wheelchair and I pushed him inside, and they immediately took him back. And there was a lot of doctors and nurses coming in and out, and they really weren't saying much to him. He was very cold, and they wouldn't give him any blankets because he was running a fever. This was new, but his fingers were pale and yellow, and they felt like plastic. And then the pediatrician on call on the floor of the emergency room that night came in, and he sat on a stool. And don't ever think it's a good thing when the pediatrician pulls up a stool and says, "I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, what about?" And he said, "Henry's come into the hospital today with a 2.7 hemoglobin." And I said, "What? A 2.7 hemoglobin?" A 14-year-old his age, his height and weight should at least have between a 12 and 15 hemoglobin. We rarely see patients with a 2.7 hemoglobin that are talking and that are still alert. We don't know what's wrong with Henry, but we know that he's losing blood, and he's losing blood from somewhere. And so they started putting a bag of blood and infusing Henry with this bag of blood. And we were admitted into the pediatric intensive care unit. Henry was still very tired and very out of it. And I was trying my best to communicate as much as I could with my husband. And my husband was then in turn communicating with everybody that he could, because that's when I learned the importance and the power of intercessory prayer. That Friday, we waited all day long to meet what I call the wise old tree. And the wise old tree is a hematologist, and he had been a hematologist, pediatric hematologist, oncologist for 40 years. And he looked at Henry's blood and explained to us that Henry has been bleeding internally from somewhere. They don't know where, and they don't know why. They tested Henry for everything under the sun. Think of something that they could have tested him for, and they did. They started doing obscure testing from other countries. No, it wasn't mono. No, it wasn't COVID. No, it wasn't the flu. No, it wasn't anything. They couldn't figure it out. But we stayed in the pediatric intensive care unit until Saturday, and Henry had another bag of blood and another, they're called iron infusions, and we were able to go to the pediatric floor. And on Sunday, he was starting to prep for a colonoscopy endoscopy that was performed on Monday. And the doctors were sure that the colonoscopy endoscopy was going to show them where he was bleeding from. And to their surprise, they couldn't find anything. The gastroenterologist came in on his day off just to perform this procedure for Henry. On Tuesday, January 9th, they said Henry could go home, which was wonderful. And the first place we went was In-N-Out Burger. And we know why Henry was healed. And we know that the God that we serve and love is the ultimate physician. And we know that it is his will that Henry's here. But we don't have our blood counts on our foreheads. This was not something that any of us were expecting. And to know how truly fragile he was when the words, "he has a 2.7 hemoglobin," were said, I realized at that moment, oh wow, this could go one of two ways. And while I was praying in the emergency room with Henry, he looked at me and he said, "Mom, am I going to die?" And I said, "Son, we're all going to die. I just hope it's not today, because I haven't taught you how to drive yet. You haven't been on a date with a girl. There's so many things that you need to experience in this life. But if it's God's will, it's God's will." But it was God's will that Henry is okay. And every single month for the past year, he has gone to see his hematologist, and his hemoglobin has been doing nothing but going up. Last time it was checked was a month ago, and it was 15.7. So he is walking, talking, living proof that miracles still exist. And God is so gracious and good. And I'm so grateful, so incredibly grateful he's still my son to take care of on this earth.
Look what I got here.
Well, hello. Henry here. Today is January 9th, 2025, and it has officially been 1 year since I was in the hospital. 1 year. Or since I got out of the hospital, that is. That's what today specifically is. It feels kind of weird to know it's only been 1 year. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's been many, many years. But alas, it has only been 1 year since I was in the hospital. And I think the most obvious question is, well, I am doing really good. I am doing very, very, very good. Okay, so this is take 2 of this because as I was editing, I noticed that in my previous recording, I got a little bit sidetracked. Got up this morning and had Cheerios and had taquitos for lunch. I mean, I missed my alarm. I overslept this morning. And on the topic of reviewing albums, I've mainly reviewed Tom Petty albums, and yeah, I don't know what that was about. To answer the question, how am I doing? I am doing amazing. 1 year and now 8 days later, I'm doing really, really good. My numbers have just been, well, they kind of went up. It was really interesting from being in the hospital, arriving at 2.7, and then, I went up to, I think I left the hospital like an 8, the next time I was at a 12, and then I've been at a 15, about a 14, and I think the highest one was about a 15.7. It's just been really incredible. It's been amazing how much God has healed me. And, I mean, I am so thankful to be here. I am so thankful to be alive. It is amazing. I am so thankful to God and to my family, and I'm thankful for all the people who prayed for me. I had so many people praying for me. I had people who were my father's friends, people who I didn't even know, people who were my friends, people who I know, who I don't know, people in other states. The farthest I know of was like New York, which is wild. I mean, that just shows you the power of prayer. I mean, people all over the country, and who knows, maybe even the world, I don't know how far it went, praying for me while I was in the hospital is something I am so inexplainably, like, there's no words for how thankful I am for it. I have grown so much as a person. I have completely changed from who I was in, even going back as far as, let's just say, early 2023. It feels like decades have gone by for me, but it's only been like a year, and it has been a really incredible year. 2024, one of the worst starts, but one of the best middles and ends I've ever had. I got to, in July, go to my first concert, AJR. Got to see them with my mom. They're my favorite modern band. I had such a great time at that. It was so much fun. They put on a heck of a show. I got to meet with my friend a good few times, my best friend a few times, and it was great. I got to, more than even going to a concert and meeting up with friends, I got to hang out with my friends, got to hang out with my family. I got to go back to church. I got to, do school and be upset over the amount of work I was getting. That was something I almost didn't get to experience. I got to turn 15, started my sophomore year of high school, and I'm finishing it up now, hoping to run for student president. Got to introduce people to Jesus, got to talk to them about Christ, about Jesus who saved my life, and not just the spiritual way, but literally saved my life. And I am just so grateful. I am so thankful to be able to be bored. I've had a lot of very boring days, and that's amazing that I've gotten to just kind of sit around and be okay with being bored. That was something I almost didn't get to do. That was something that I was close to not getting to do. But I've been able to live my life. I've been able to eat too much food or eat too much junk food, and then at 11 at night, be watching TV and just be like, oh, I feel like I'm going to pop. I've gotten to watch TV shows with my parents, and I've gotten to hang out with, my family and at church and at home and with my friends. I've gotten to listen to music and review albums and to forge new relationships. I have gotten to do so much. I've gotten to bond with my brother. We got a new dog. His name's Lloyd. He's crazy, with a capital Crazy, and he annoys me, but I love him. I love him so much. I have gotten to live. I've gotten to see so much happen. I've gotten to learn. I've gotten to experience Christmas. I got to have another Christmas, and I didn't know, for a while whether or not I was going to get to do that. And that is, it's so amazing to live. And it really is the little things. That's a sentence said a lot, but after having been through this experience, yeah, you know what? It is. I love living, and I love God, and I love my family, and I love my friends, and I am just so thankful. I could probably say that for the next hour, and it wouldn't come close to properly explaining it. I'm thankful to Papa, aka Brother Kevin, who prayed for me without ceasing, and who even visited me in the hospital. And I'm thankful to Coach Daniels and the relationship I've been able to create with him through music. I'm thankful to Mr. Micah and Miss Geelan, Miss Amanda, Mr. Abel, and their family, all the people everywhere who prayed for me. The update is I'm doing amazing. I am working on all kinds of videos and getting to hang out with my friends and listen to music, and I'm getting to live. I'm getting to live by the grace of God, and I'm thankful for all of your prayers, and I'm thankful for everything you've done for me, and I'm thankful to God above all for saving me, and I'm very, very happy to be here with my family, with my friends, and to continue on. I thank you all for your prayers. I am doing fantastic, and I hope you are too. I want you to know that God is real. I have felt personally His life-saving power, His spiritual life-saving power, His physical life-saving power. God is real, and He loves you. He loves you. And I have personally felt that love. So I want to pray that God bless you, and you know that Jesus Christ loves you. I am doing well, and I am continuing to do so. I hope you all have a great year. Happy 2025. God bless you. Jesus loves you. Peace.